Welcome to the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast with psychologist Dr. Doreen Downing. Listen in as Doreen interviews people who felt they didn't have a voice or who suffered extreme speaking anxiety. You'll hear stories about how they struggled to speak up, what they did to find their authentic voice, and the confidence they now feel to speak up and make an impact. If you want to get started right away to find your voice, download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. And now, here is Doreen.
Hi, I'm Dr. Doreen Downing, and I'm host of the Find Your Voice, Change Your Life podcast. What I love about providing this space for people is that they get to come in and share life stories. They get to share mostly, because that's what our topic is, about how they didn't have a voice and what might have happened to them, maybe early on in life, or maybe even after they entered the workforce. We don't know, but we're quite open here today to get curious about the story that's going to come out from our guest today. And she is a wonderful friend I've met through the internet. This is what makes internet so amazing, is that you get to really connect heartfully and authentically with people around the globe. Thank you, Melahni, for being my friend.
Absolutely. This has been so much fun. We were in a contest together on a LinkedIn group and we just connected, and I just adore you and appreciate you. And so I am honored to be here with you tonight. This is going to be fun.
Wonderful. Yes. Well, you sent me a bio, and it's always good to get that out so people get a little sense of, even though the story might have been challenging for you, look at you now. So is that okay if I could just read the bio?
Sure.
All right. Melahni Ake is the founder of Everyday Leaders Professional Coaching and Consulting. And guess what? She's from Indianapolis. So the organization provides leadership development resources and strategies to corporations, nonprofits, and community programs to create sustainable systems for consistent growth. Those are some big words, but they're so powerful, right? Sustainable systems. So I always like to, when I'm reading, go, wow, look at that. So, but there's more. She's been a Maxwell leadership coach, speaker, and trainer since 2016, and in 2020 became the first U.S. affiliate Y coach with the Y Institute. And Melahni believes that consistent personal growth provides the clarity and the courage. Oh, there's the words again, clarity and courage. I always like to emphasize that people, hey, pay attention. This is growth provides the clarity and the courage to overcome any obstacle in our life. Oh, one more. I have to take a big breath because you are amazing how much you've been able to accomplish. And I'm sure all of this is from personal learning, not just, you didn't pop out this way. But one more thing I want to say before we get on with our show today. She's founded multiple women's leadership programs, including and co-founding Scale for Women, helping women achieve sales, confidence, and leadership excellence. So that was a full mouthful, but again, I feel like it only is so beautifully written, and because of your life experience.
Oh, thank you. It's been a
Right.
journey. It's absolutely been a journey. And that's, you have to learn all those lessons to get you where you really need to get clear. And that's what helps you get that courage. And so I love to share the story because I think a lot of people can identify with the things that I've gone through, the challenges that I've had in my own life and career, and getting eliminated at 50 years old. That was one of the big things in corporate America that I always felt like, oh gosh, well, that happened to me. And it did. So
Uh-huh.
you have to always be prepared.
Uh-huh. Well, I always like to, especially for people from other states, I'd like to go back early history just to get a sense of, well, where were you born into a family, and were you the oldest or the youngest, middle child? Just give us a little brief kind of snapshot of where that was.
Yep. So I'm an only child, actually. I was born in Orlando, so home of Disney World. And shortly after I was born, my family moved to Indianapolis, where my great grandparents had established an evangelistic center. So back in the day, it was a tabernacle nursing home, a community center, a school. It was one of a kind in the day, and it was right here, about 3 miles from where I live today. It developed into quite an establishment, and John Maxwell's father actually preached with my great grandfather at this tabernacle.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of history in my DNA about where I am today and connecting those dots, like Steve Jobs says.
Uh-huh.
So that's kind of where it started, and my influence continued to just know that I was really developed to be a community advocate, a community leader, and a community developer. And and so that's really, the history there. And then my father passed away when I was 5, and he was treated from developing kind of a cough, and then he thought he pulled a muscle and ended up at Stanford for treatment, and found out that he had lung cancer. So he died within 4 months of being diagnosed. And then we shortly moved to Florida, where he passed away, and then back to Indianapolis. But when I think about my history, Doreen, I think about the first kind of 11 years of my life, 10 years of my life, 9 years of my life. I went to 7 schools,
Mhm.
7 schools, 3 kindergartens. California, where I started, uh, in Palo Alto, close to where you are, then Orlando, and then Indianapolis. And so being able to adapt to change and being able to communicate, right, with people from different areas that I didn't know, I wasn't familiar with, but I had to find the confidence to be able to survive. And I think it taught me a lot.
Oh, it had to, and I'm just getting the sense of, here's this bright little character going into a new environment and learning how new environments work, because you talk about going into corporations and you're a consultant. And I think that that's partly what skill it takes, is being able to go into a room and not know anybody and figure things out pretty quickly, either how to fit in, or in your case now, what you're doing in consulting is figuring out how to help. I'm not sure at 5 years old you were figuring out how to help, but you sure were developing some ease with entering into unfamiliar environments.
hmm I think about, you don't really understand how you are equipped through your lifetime. It's the experiences that allow you to really gain that confidence. Yet there's choices, right? We all talk about choices as coaches, and it could have gone a really negative way for me. I could have felt fear, I could have felt doubt, I could have felt a lot of things that I didn't have family, I didn't have brothers and sisters to guide me or mentor me. Yet I had something inside that knew I had to show up, and I had to learn, and I had to serve. And I think that was a lot of my family influence, watching them serve our community. I just knew that there was something more within me that I needed to fulfill. I needed to find what that was. And so I kept searching for it. I'm still searching for it, but trying to do a better job my whole life in seeing what makes an impact, right? And then learning how to show up and do that.
Uh-huh. Both seeing what makes an impact, but then learning how to do what it takes. What I just also heard and saw in you is this, being the environment around you. You were surrounded by what feels like not a negative environment. And I'm thinking that, yeah, being an only child, you don't have other siblings to learn from. And, your father is gone early in life. And so that there's kind of a void around you, is what might have been, but it wasn't. It was good people, it sounds like good messages were being given to you. But I also heard one other thing. And there was something inside of you, like some kind of determination or some kind of curiosity or destiny was waiting for you. And it was just like so eager to step into it early on.
You know, when I was 7 years old, there used to be little flyers, pamphlets that would come home from school on Fridays. And one week I brought a flyer home and it said, register for hockey. Now, I don't know why that stood out, but my mom and I, now it's just she and I, it's 7 years old, right? And she says, do you want to go? And so that Saturday morning, we went over to the hockey rink, ice hockey, and signed me up. It was an all boys league. And I played in that league for 12 years as the only girl, just from one piece of paper that just said it's open registration. Right. And so my mother never stopped me from doing something that she thought, if it's possible, you should try it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really give her a lot of credit because I wouldn't have been able to figure out the resources. I mean, she was a single parent and hockey's an expensive sport. And so we figured out how to get the used equipment and I learned to skate and we figured out how to get to practices twice a week and on Saturdays for games and travel. And it was an amazing experience that gave me a lot of confidence of how to socialize with people that weren't like me, right? None of these boys were like me. And yet I didn't have any fear about that. I enjoyed it. I loved learning. And hockey taught me the strategy behind looking at where the puck is going to be instead of where it is. And so I just think there are so many things that were already in my DNA, and life just led me down the path to give me those resources to constantly build that other level of confidence up. It's like, well, you don't know what you're learning until you've learned it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look back and say, wow, I'm so glad that happened because it really gave me another perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there's a lot of people that I work with, Doreen, coach and women and men that are having problems that are moving through work transitions or life transitions. And sometimes it was really hard as I started coaching to get to the point where they were and feeling that fear, that real fear that they have. You talk about speaking fear.
Mm-hmm.
People have genuine fear where it shuts your body down. And we know this, right? And I don't know. I've experienced that one time when I was eliminated from my job at 50 years old and didn't have a plan. And the rest of my life, I think I've thrived in it. I have stepped in for the challenge. I have looked for the opportunity and never backed down because I took control over it. Yet when that one time when I was eliminated and I felt the panic of, I don't know what decision to make. I don't know what to do next. I feel responsible, right? That put me in the hospital. It literally put me in the hospital with a blood pressure of 87/40, thinking I was going to die. And yet it was the physiological response to stress and fear and anxiety that people go through. And until you go through it, you don't realize how real it is. And that can cause someone to make decisions that they aren't aware of, that they don't want to make, that they are, that they have to grow through or change, or they can have a heart attack, right? But the physical stress is real when you have that panic situation. And so I really didn't appreciate that until I went through it. And I realized, you can be a conqueror and you can feel like you're conquering the world and that you have a plan. Yet when you don't have the ability to have everything in order the way you see it or the way you want it to be, that can kill you.
Right.
Unless you have a strategy for it. So,
and strategy came from one of the lessons early on was with hockey, is what you're talking about, is that lesson that you're talking about. You don't know you're learning until you've learned it. There's something I just connected there there are dots, I guess you might say. You're talking about having more, I mean, from my guest, you have more initial kind of confidence than a lot of people that I've talked to. You haven't had the kind of fear that holds you back for years. You just go forward, which is kind of in your, like you say, your DNA and in your character structure. But I'm thinking that when it's just a thought that when somebody has such tremendous loss so early in life, sometimes it could be debilitating, but sometimes it compels somebody to learn some things like, I got to learn how to make it through the rest of my life, or I've got to learn how to survive tomorrow without the kind of, life I had before. It's like life is totally different. Now I have to move forward. And it just made me appreciate how confidence, I mean, I don't think you went day one after your father died, I am so confident. It's just like, I need to do something here. Is that true?
Mm-hmm. I just always felt, I think because there was so much love in our house. I mean, I can remember we had monkeys. We grew grapes. We had fun. He had motorcycles and we just, those first 5 years, most of the time you think, well, what do you remember before the age of 5? I have a lot of memories. I have a lot of memories. And so I cherish those.
Yeah.
And I think, that's what I want to bring when I see people that are sad about some silly thing, right? We all get upset about silly things, but I think you need to have joy in your heart. You need to find that joy wherever that is, wherever that was. You need to lean on that because it doesn't last forever. But
Yeah,
you need
well,
to be
there
able
you
to,
go.
right?
There
But
you
you need,
go. There
but
you
you
go.
need to hold
It
it.
doesn't last forever is something that people who are listening could take from somebody who has learned that at 5 years old. Right? It doesn't last forever, but you got a lot of goodies early on, which is great. I want to talk a little bit about voice through some of what you've been sharing so far. When you think back around, I mean, I know you're talking about confidence and this this challenge that you love to face and move towards. But how do you integrate the thought of voice in there, your own voice?
Mm,
What?
that's a great question, Doreen. I think you have to understand where you want to be first. It's the clarity that comes from doing things in your life to understand that it's your voice and not someone else's. A lot of people that I coach and that I talk to say, well, I'm doing this because, or I am expected to do this because, or I have responsibilities to do this because. And I think, again, just turning back to the way that I was raised and the things that I was around in my environment, that I learned to speak up for myself. Being an only child, I learned that I didn't have other influences when I had to make decisions of the friends that I hung around. I knew what was right or wrong. And so I stood up for myself. I stood up for the beliefs of the consequences. I'm a Generation Xer. And so there were lots of things that we didn't have access to the internet. Yet when your friends ask you to do something, you knew, was that going to be a consequence? And did I want to suffer the consequences? And so you made choices. And I look back and think, people that know me, I haven't changed since I was little. I haven't changed my personality. I haven't changed my hairstyle. I'm the same person I have always been. And a lot of people are like that. But I think that gives you confidence too, not being able, not having to say, well, I'm this person at work and I'm this person at home and I'm this person in front of customers and I'm this person with my friends. I am the same consistent person no matter if I'm asleep and I just wake up in the morning, or I have been on a long speaking engagement, or I'm traveling across the world on a vacation. This is what you get. I don't change. And I think that makes a difference because you don't have to think about what does your character show up as and what's your integrity and who do you believe you are. I really am grounded in, I understand what makes me happy. I understand what to stay away from. I understand the toxic people that really affect my mood and my attitude. And so I've learned some strategies on how to remove those people from my life because you have to.
Mhm.
Uh,
And
that's important.
you probably have to use your voice if you need, as one of your strategies to speak up, right? You don't just shut the door and don't open it. And people are standing out there. "Well, where'd she go? What happened? What's wrong?" You probably have to. So I'm coming back to using your voice in a way that is a strategy. So is that something that you can talk about? This
Yeah.
voice as a
Well,
strategy.
um, you know, I think using your voice and being able to have the right communication, right? Being able to use the right words, having the right inflection. When I've coached medical sales device teams all over the world, it was, how do you use the right language to get the right behaviors or the right sales? If you want to have the right conversation for sales confidence, you have to use the right language, the right voice inflection, the right questions. And so that all comes through though. If you're not confident in what you're saying and you're showing up as yourself, if you're trying to imitate someone else or just memorize a script to get something done and on a checklist or have a difficult conversation, you cannot do that if it's not coming from your heart. So knowing yourself and how you really expect the outcome and what you do see as the outcome, it can help you with that speech, that confidence, that communication, so much better and stronger. Because you can see when someone walks into a room, right? If they have that confidence and that power and they come in and say, "Hi, I'm really excited to be here," versus, "Hi, I'm really excited to be here." You respond to people differently, right? And so it matters. It matters that you can come from your heart and bring it out to people so that they can feel you. Your voice is your heart. It's just a language.
Oh, that is so profound. Your heart has a voice and it has a language. And I think that's something that I'll be taking with me today in listening to you. And I'm also really getting that you as a little one, a little girl going through your early years and through high school and into the life that you've now created for yourself, you have been consistently yourself. It doesn't feel like you had to go through some major transformation to come out and find your voice. It was like, oh, you just had to continue being supported for who you were, which you were. And also now it feels like I want to just move into a little bit more because you have been showing us the kind of coach you are and the kind of what you look for and how you help people be more of who they can be. Because in a way, yes, I'm working with people to find their voice because they've held themselves back, and to find you might call it confidence. But like you said, it's more about being who you truly are, but you have to know who you truly are. And that is what I think is a message too that I'm taking today.
You just have to stay so focused, Doreen. Some people may say, "Oh, that's selfish, thinking about yourself." And yet, personal growth and personal development, it really changes you. It gives you that clarity that it's not the noise of what marketing companies think you should be, or what your family tells you you should be, or what your best friend is going out and achieving. It doesn't hold that worry or that fear or that stress over your head. You just go, I'm competing with myself and I know that I need to be better. I need to improve every day. And so you hold that bar, really close, and you say, well, am I impacting? That's how I gauge myself. How many more lives can I impact today? Can I make them feel better about themselves, better about the work that they do, better about the communication and the teams that they're building, better about the strategy that they're using in their community to make it a better place? That's really what I care about. And it's what my family cared about for years. And so I just go, I know this is my purpose and I'm in alignment with where I am and what God really created me to do. So it feels just right. It just feels right. And when you get that right, it fits like a glove and you don't have to question. When you say yes to something, I know it's 100% in my heart to show up and do.
Well, total alignment. That's what you're talking about. Head, heart, gut, all of it together. And I have something that I call essence appreciation when I work with people and looking for what is that quality inside of people, because it's usually different, but I do know that everybody has some jewel that radiates outward, that it's like a beam, like a beautiful beam inside of everyone. And I see that in you, and I hear it in your voice. There's a kind of a resonance, a joy that's, I don't know, Melanie, just like joy to be alive.
I I am joyful all the time. Not every day. Not
Uh,
when we didn't have hot water.
um, uh-huh.
But it just matters. Your attitude of how you see the world is really important. And, you know, I think what the work that you do, Doreen, is to help people with that confidence. And that's where it starts. If people can gain that in their life and they can just settle in and not be nervous about what they are getting ready to do to communicate, either a sales pitch to a big medical device company or a research doctor that they've never met. It's always that first engagement. People say the first 7 seconds? People make a decision about whether they can trust you, whether they like you, whether they want to have a conversation with you. So if you don't know what to say, or you're looking down, or you don't know how to enter a room that you're not familiar with, that's critical to the success in your life. And so those little things, they matter.
Well, I was going to ask you to say a few last words, but those are wonderful last words. And the image I have is, and what I hope listeners will take right now, is that entering any place, any environment, if your heart has open, there's energy, open, bright energy as you move into a new arena, then that's so attractive. And you could call it confidence. I mean, I think you could be, I still think you could be nervous and have the feel that your heart is leading you into any situation.
Mhm, mhm. You get butterflies. When I get asked to speak, Doreen, I was asked to step in for the governor's wife this year at a luncheon. She was sick, and at the last moment, on the way to the event, I received a phone call, and they said, "Could you step in today?" I had no idea I was coming to attend lunch, and yet the whole topic was living your passion. And so I didn't have to think about it. I mean,
Uh,
I've spoken a lot to groups, yet it was an opportunity for me to take what was in my heart for 20 minutes in front of 130 women and provide this keynote luncheon. And it filled my heart more than you'll ever know. Like, that was the pivotal point this year for me to have that opportunity. Yet I just showed up, right? I didn't say no. I was excited, not nervous. And I knew that if I was consistent in my character, I could deliver a message that I wanted other people to learn. And that's what I did. And so I just keep doing that. It's not easy. I just keep doing it, and it keeps getting clear. What do I need to say? Who's my audience, right? And what can they take away from it? And so it's just been a blessing. It's been a blessing. If I would stand back in the crowd thinking that I really am an introvert, I really would prefer to be in the back of the room listening. Yet when I've stepped up and showed up, I've gotten so much more fulfillment in my life. And so that's what I want to encourage your listeners to do, is just learn how to stand up and show up.
Ooh, great last words. Stand up and show up, and speak from your heart. Thank you so much, Melanie. I'll have in the show notes how they could contact you, but maybe just one quick, is it your email, or what would be the easiest way?
You can go to my website, everydayleaders.com, because we build better leaders every day.
Thank you for being with us today for this episode of Find Your Voice, Change Your Life. Each person Doreen interviews shares what has helped them find their voice. You can learn from these guests and find your voice so you can be confident to speak up and speak out. And remember to download Doreen's free 7-step guide to fearless speaking at doreen7steps.com. We hope you enjoyed the show and will return next time. Until then, goodbye for now.